Hi everyone, happy neighborhood day. My name is Kiwi and I am from Kinbridge Community Association. Some of you may know me, some of you may not. If not, it's nice to virtually meet you. Today, we are going to be making sugar cookies and icing. I don't know about you, but anytime I go to an event or, we host an event ourselves, we really like to have cookie decorating and or face painting. Unfortunately, I'm not a very good artist, so I can't teach you how to face paint. But I can teach you how to make our easy, quick sugar cookie recipe that we use for a lot of our events with our icing. Sometimes we buy icing, sometimes we make icing, but we also do this recipe in our program as well. So I know in the picture that will be to follow, we will have the recipe linked for you with 2 different icing recipes for whichever one you prefer to do and may have on hand. So it is a really simple recipe. You need to line a baking sheet with parchment paper, aluminum foil. I have the reusable mats, so that's what I will be using. You need flour, baking soda, baking powder, 1 egg, a cup of butter, and either some vanilla extract or maple syrup or honey, whatever you prefer, and then sugar, white sugar. Okay, so that's all you need. And then for your measuring cups for today, you need a cup, a quarter of a cup, half a cup, and a teaspoon. Not a whole lot. You need 2 bowls and something to mix with, and then you're good to go. For this video, I will be using my KitchenAid mixer just to speed up the process a little bit because I know mixing by hand can take a while. I am lucky enough to have a KitchenAid mixer. It was a birthday gift to me, so I was super thankful for that. But I know a lot of people don't have a mixer or anything like that. If you have a hand mixer, you can use that. If not, good old-fashioned, some elbow grease will also work too. Okay, so then let's get started. I'm gonna tilt you guys down in hopes that you can see everything that I'm doing. My computer over there has the recipe so I don't forget it because, it's not always perfect. Okay, so in a small to medium bowl, you are going to mix your dry ingredients together, but not all of them. So you're gonna do your flour, your baking powder, and your baking soda. So you need 2 3/4 cups of flour. All-purpose works best. Okay, so a trick when measuring, if you pull it up the side of the bag, you get it pretty even. Okay, so there's my cup. And then I have a 1/4 cup, so we're gonna do 3 of those. So same thing, if you pull it up the side of the bag, it will be nice and even for you because when you're baking, you wanna try to have your measurements as even as possible so that you don't have too much flour, too little sugar, and then it tastes funny. So you want to try to be as on as possible. That's 2, and we have 1 more. Okay, and that's 3. Now, we are done after this with the 1/4 cup, so I am just gonna put it right into the sink. It's a trick, friends. Clean while you go. Stick it in the sink. Okay, so then we are all done with our flour, so I'm just gonna put that aside. Then we need our teaspoon. It is a teaspoon of baking soda and baking powder. Half a teaspoon of baking powder, I'm sorry. So I'll do my teaspoon of baking soda. And then I will do my half teaspoon of baking powder. Okay. All right, done with the half. Done with these, gonna put them aside so they're not in my way. So all of our dry ingredients, except for our sugar's in there. So what you're gonna do once your ingredients are in there is give it a nice little stir so it's all incorporated. And then what you're gonna do is you're actually gonna set this aside. Because what's next is our butter. So this is where we start with our cup of butter. I've already pre-measured it out. Okay, so I'm gonna put that in. I'm just gonna throw that out. Again, right, clean as you go. So you have your cup of butter and then you need 1 1/2 cups of white sugar. So my sugar's in my container. I'm just gonna use the half a cup just because my container is fuller. So that means I need 3 of them. 1, 2, 3. Now for parents who like to use different kinds of sugar, You can use any kind of sugar alternative that you'd like. I've used monk fruit, I've used coconut sugar, so anything that you would like, you can add into that just to make your life easier. Okay, we are done with the cup. That's going in. And then we are going to use my KitchenAid. So this is where you start mixing by hand if you can. Okay, and then I'm gonna turn this on. It will be loud, so I'm sorry. And you're gonna mix it until it's creamy. You also, a trick is you want your butter to be softened already, and then it will work faster rather than it being cold right out of the fridge. You can also use margarine or a butter alternative as well. I know some people have used ghee before. They said it is a little bit of a thicker cookie, but you can use ghee as an alternative if you'd like to. So we're just gonna check it out. It's getting there. I'll peek in here if you can see what's going on. It's pretty much there outside of the bottom, so I think I might just elbow grease it from here. And you also want to preheat your oven to 375 degrees as you're doing this. I'm going to try to get all your butter. Oh, and there's my oven is ready for us to go. All right, so now that that is done, I'm just going to continue again, just using my mixer, just because for time's sake. Now after that, we are going to add in our egg and our vanilla, and then we're gonna mix it in. And then once it's pretty well mixed in, so it's 1 teaspoon of vanilla, which also is my favorite smell. So every time I'm cooking, I have to smell it because it smells so good. And then you need 1 egg. Crack your egg in there. Make sure you don't get any shell in. If you do, just pick it out before you start mixing. Okay, so now that that's all in there, we are again, now you're gonna mix it all together. Until it's incorporated, and then you're gonna slowly start adding your dry ingredients to your wet ingredients. All right, that's pretty creamy. We're gonna stop it. Now, like I said, what we're gonna do is we're gonna start slowly. If we add it all in, it just goes poof all at the same time, or if you're doing it by hand, it will end up making it really, really hard to mix all together. So you can do it, I usually do it in about 3 sections, but you can also do 2 if you'd like. So you wanna start it off nice and slow. This is where it'd be helpful if I had one of those guards, but I don't. So once it gets pretty combined like that, we're gonna stop it and we're gonna add some more. Also, if you are using a mixer, make sure that you scrape everything off because it will get stuck, and you wanna try to incorporate as much of all the ingredients as you can. I'm gonna do another batch. We'll see. We're gonna do 3, okay? Again, start it nice and slow, and then mix away. Same thing. Once it starts to get all combined, scrape it all off. Oops. Also, make sure to wash your hands anytime before you start cooking or baking. And anybody who has long hair, you want to put it up because I don't like it. I mean, my hair falls out, so I don't want my hair in the things that I bake or in the things that I cook. So I just try to always make sure that my hair is up and out of the way. All right, so this will be the final mix together. Now, if you do have a dough hook, you can use a dough hook, but I find that this paddle just does well, and I really like my paddle, so I just use my paddle. Okay. I think we got the majority of it off as best as we could. Now, this is why you want your hands clean, is because we're about to get dirty. So now it's too hard to mix with the spoon, so this is where we want to use our hands because it makes it go faster. I'm also going to take this off, move it out of the way so that we have some more space here. Okay, so you want to get your hands in there and you want to knead the dough. So you want to fold it over and you want to make sure that it's all clumped together as best as possible into a ball. Now, some people will make sugar cookies over like the Christmas holidays, and they'll do that kind of thing. So you can roll it out, but I find that this recipe in particular doesn't do well with rolling. So I like to call these my summer sugar cookies because they take half the time. So you don't have to roll it and then put it back in a ball and then roll it. So when the majority of it is all incorporated together like that, that is when we're going to start spooning it onto our baking sheet. So just make sure, you can pick it up, make sure that there's not, extra butter, flour, any loose ingredients at the bottom. We are pretty good. So I'm just going to do a quick rinse of my hands and then we're going to get ready to roll them up. All right, I washed my hands and now I'm going to grab a baking sheet. Now to do this next part, some people will use like an ice cream scooper to scoop it up and scoop it onto their baking sheet. I just use like a tablespoon and kind of guess the size of my balls that I will be making. So you kind of want to do like a rounded teaspoon of a ball size. So I have my baking sheet. We're gonna grab this guy, so like a big size kitchen spoon, but you're not gonna make it full. So you're gonna grab a nice little pile of dough and you're just gonna make it into a ball. Now, like I said, I have a pretty good eye for how big. So obviously if you want your cookies huge, make a huge ball. Just make sure that you leave more space in between. But this to me is still a little big, so I'm just gonna take a little bit out, roll it into a ball, and then I'm going to, let's see if you guys can see, stick it onto my baking sheet just like that. Okay, and you wanna leave maybe about an inch ish in between your balls, both ways, so that they do have room to grow and expand. Okay, roll it up, stick it on, and you're gonna keep doing this. Now the trick is you don't want to play with it too much, because that's when it either starts to get sticky or it dries out. So if it starts to dry out, you can either add a little bit of water, like a splash of water, or you can just leave it. Some of these are kind of big, but that's okay. I'm okay with having different size cookies. Also, on baking mats, reusable baking sheets like this, sometimes it does take a few extra minutes to bake, I have noticed. So if you are baking on like a baking mat like I am, sometimes it can take an extra couple minutes just because it has an extra layer, a thicker layer to get through than parchment paper or aluminum foil. If you have a non-stick pan, you can put them straight onto the baking sheet itself, but don't spray it. You want to leave it ungreased because there is a quite amount of butter in this that it should not stick. Now this recipe usually makes obviously between the size of your cookies that you're making, It can make anywhere from 24 to 36 cookies. With the majority of the size that I make it, it's normally around 20 to 24 cookies. But I also tend to make them just a little bit bigger. Okay. I can probably put one more on here. Now, you are going to be baking these for 8 to 10 minutes, but like I said with my baking sheet, it's usually about 12, but every oven and stove is different, so obviously always start it with the 8-ish minute mark, and then figure out if that's the right temperature, or sorry, the right time, not temperature, the right time for you. The temperature, again, is 375 degrees Fahrenheit, and then what you're gonna do is you're gonna stick your cookies in the oven, like I said, 8 to 10 minutes. And then when they're all done, if you have a cooling rack, you can pull them out, leave them for a couple minutes on the baking sheet, and then put them on the cooling rack, or you can put them right on the cooling rack, or just leave them on if you don't need the baking sheet to cool. And then when they're done, we'll be back. Good luck, happy baking. We'll be back shortly. Until they're golden brown on the bottom or just a little bit on the top. Mine aren't quite done yet, so I stuck them back in. Now, I did forget to mention, as I always mention before, and I'm sorry about that, but any of my friends that are out there, always make sure that when you're in the kitchen that you have adult supervision, so that you don't hurt yourself. When you're in the kitchen, you don't burn yourself. You always have adult supervision around. Next batch is almost ready to go in. We're just waiting for these guys to be done. Came out looking perfect. So now we're gonna stick the other ones in. And while you are doing that, I am just cleaning up. So like I said, if you take your time and do your cleanup, then we're good to go. So I'm just gonna leave these guys here just to cool down. They smell delicious. All right, my friends, I am sorry. I did leave my cookies to cool overnight. And I made the icing when it was really noisy. So I wasn't able to videotape, but I did take pictures for everybody. So I'm just going to walk you through what you need and how I made it. So you need just one bowl. You need 2 cups of powdered sugar or icing sugar. You need 6 to 8 teaspoons of milk of your choice. So it can be almond milk, soy milk, anything like that. You need 4 teaspoons of corn syrup. I use light corn syrup. I find that it works better when you want it to be white and not have kind of like a caramelly color to it. And then 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla or almond extract, or you can use maple syrup or honey as well. And then of course food coloring is optional. So once you have all of that ready to go, then you are good to add in your 2 cups of powdered sugar. And if you can sift it, that's awesome. If you can't, don't worry about it. I didn't have a sifter and it still turned out perfect. From there, you want to add 6 teaspoons of your milk of choice. So I use just regular cow's milk. Always start with 6 teaspoons. And then if your consistency isn't right in the end, if it's still too thick, then you can add more milk. If it's too thin and runny, then you can add more powdered sugar. But this recipe is bang on, let me tell you. You want 4 teaspoons of your corn syrup, 1/2 teaspoon of your vanilla or almond extract or maple syrup or honey. I used vanilla extract. Again, gotta smell it, love the smell. Then once it's all added together, you're gonna stir it up until it's a creamy texture. Now you don't want it to be runny like water. You want it, so if you put some on the spoon and you pick up the spoon, you want it to drip off of the spoon, not run. Once everything's good to go, if you'd like to add food coloring to make it look pretty, you can separate your icing into however many bowls you would need for however many colors you want to make. I did 3, and I chose to do pink, light green, and yellow for, summertime. And then add as much color as you'd like. I did 3 drops each, and it was a perfect color for me. But if you wanted it to be darker or lighter, you can add less or more, but add as much color as desired. Stir it up until it's all mixed together. And from there, you're ready to start decorating. So you can either spoon it on. I did both. I spooned it and dipped it in, and both work super awesome. Like I said, if you don't have a wire cooling rack, you can always just dip it and then put it back onto a baking sheet so that all your mess kind of stays in one area and it's not getting everywhere for easier cleanup. And you can either mix color. I did a little bit of drizzling of colors. I did not have any sprinkles or anything fun to add. You could add Smarties, M&Ms. You could add sprinkles, like I said, chocolate chips, mini chocolate chips, Reese's Pieces. If you like those, you could even add some pineapple or some dried mango or anything like that, dried strawberry, banana chips, fresh banana, anything you want will also make it wonderful too. So I did take some pictures of what I did with them, and it ran a little bit, so I could have probably added a little bit more icing sugar to my mixture to make it a little bit thicker, but by the time you eat it, it just tastes delicious, so it doesn't matter. But I hope everybody enjoyed this recipe, and I hope that everybody can make the recipe with me and take some pictures and post them so we can see what creations you made too for your cookie decorating extravaganza at home. Remember, doing this in the kitchen, you always want to have an adult present with you, just to make sure that you're doing things right, or if you ever have any questions, and that's so you don't hurt yourself. But then I've also included a separate icing recipe as well that does not include corn syrup. Now I do find this one does turn out to be a little bit more runny than the one that I used in this video. So I hope everybody has a fabulous neighborhood day, and happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there tomorrow. Happy neighborhood day, everybody. Bye.